Hi everyone, Chelsea from chelseasmessyapron.com, and today we're making one of my favorite desserts, creme brulee. When I was in college, I worked at a restaurant that was known for their creme brulee. It is the absolute best creme brulee. And one of my favorite reasons for working there was actually torching the tops of the creme brulee. It's so fun to do. But don't worry, if you don't have a kitchen torch, you can still make these in your oven. So let's get started. We're actually gonna start with a vanilla bean. And if you don't have vanilla beans, you can use vanilla extract. I really like a good Mexican vanilla extract, but if you have the beans, definitely use them. So we're just gonna split it down the middle and scrape out the seeds inside. And you can actually use the vanilla bean pod because it still has a ton of flavor, so we'll use that later. But we're gonna first scrape out all these beans. And I also like using a vanilla bean because it's gonna give your creme brulee just those really beautiful flecks. And there's all the seeds. We'll set that aside. So we're gonna go over to the stove. We're gonna combine this vanilla bean pod, some heavy cream, and some sea salt. So I have the heavy cream mixture, bringing it to a simmer. You don't want it to boil, but bring it to a nice simmer. Meanwhile, we're going to make the egg mixture. It's really important that you have room temperature eggs, and we're going to separate the whites from the yolks. I like to save the whites and just put them in omelets throughout the week. So I just put the whites in like Tupperware in my fridge, and then we're just gonna use the yolks for this recipe. So you wanna use room temperature eggs so your eggs aren't super cold when we're gonna add the hot heavy cream. If you don't have room temperature eggs, you can actually just soak some eggs in some warm water for about 5 minutes and they'll be at the right temperature for this recipe. So I'm going to add some white sugar, about half a cup, and then the vanilla beans. We're just gonna beat this for a couple minutes. All right, so we've got this all mixed together. You can see all the beautiful seeds from the vanilla bean. It just makes it look really beautiful. So we've got our heavy cream, and we're just gonna pull out that vanilla pod. And then we're going to temper the eggs. So that means we're gonna pour a little bit of this liquid, about 1/4 of it, into the eggs. If we combine it all at once, you're actually gonna scramble your eggs because it's a really hot mixture with a room temperature mixture. So we're just gonna add a little bit, and that'll bring up the temperature of the eggs. So now we've got our eggs tempered, but we're gonna wait for this pot to cool just a little bit because we're gonna mix this mixture into this. Again, we don't want the eggs getting too hot too fast. So now we're going to add this mixture into the rest of our heavy cream and just whisk it the whole time. So now we have our custard, and we're just gonna pour it into some ramekins. I have some creme brulee specific, ramekins, and these are 5 ounces, but I've also used 4-ounce ramekins. You can use 6-ounce ramekins, whatever you have. So we're going to cook these creme brulees in the oven in a water bath. So I put them in a pan, and then we'll fill up this pan with some boiling water. But let's fill up our creme brulee ramekins first. So now I'm gonna put these in the oven and pour in boiling water. So we baked these creme brulees for about 30 to 35 minutes until they slightly jiggle in the centers, and then chilled them in the fridge. You chill them for about 3 to 4 hours. These have been in the fridge for about 4 hours. And now comes the fun part. We are going to add about a teaspoon of superfine sugar, and superfine sugar just melts better with a torch, so you have an even coating of sugar. So I mentioned you don't need a kitchen torch for this recipe. You can actually move the rack in your oven to the very top position and then heat your oven to a high broil. You can then put the creme brulees on that high broil and just watch them really carefully. They only take 1 to 2, maybe 3 minutes, depending on how dark you like your topping. So you can do that in the oven. I have a kitchen torch today, which is really fun to do. And you're just gonna kind of torch it until the sugar is to your liking. Some people like it a little bit more burned. I like it a little bit less burned. You can find kitchen torches at specialty stores or online, and that's perfect for how I like it. You want it to set for a couple minutes before serving it. I like to add a few fresh berries because it just looks nice and it tastes good. And then you do want to serve it pretty quickly after torching it. It doesn't sit too well, so you want to eat it pretty quickly after you've torched it. I hope you love these creme brulees as much as my family does. They're super simple to make and they taste so good. For this recipe and more, you can visit my website, chelseasmessyapron.com.